Welcome to Module 3 in the Academic Integrity course, Plagiarism. This module will focus on what plagiarism is and how to avoid it. Key topics discussed in this module. Firstly, we will begin by looking at what plagiarism is, and we will then look at some examples of different kinds of plagiarism. We will look at some of the common reasons that students plagiarize and look at strategies we can use to avoid plagiarism in our work. Finally, you'll need to pass a short quiz at the end of the module before you complete the next section of the Academic Integrity course. So what is plagiarism? Quite simply, plagiarism is when you take or use the work by another and present it as your own without properly and correctly acknowledging the source of the information or materials. Crediting the work of others is a central component of academic integrity, and it is important to understand how to give credit to the work or ideas of others in an ethical manner. It's important to remember that plagiarism can even occur accidentally and does not have to be a deliberate act. And regardless of whether the plagiarism was accidental or deliberate, it is still considered a form of cheating and has serious academic and disciplinary consequences at Churchie. We will now look at some examples of what is considered plagiarism. It is plagiarism if you use another person's ideas or opinions without acknowledging where that information came from. This includes the use of statistics, maps, graphics, or images, and music without acknowledging where they came from. You cannot copy and paste information from the internet without including a reference or citation for where it came from. It is also plagiarism if you resubmit work you used for a previous assessment and then reuse it for another assessment. This is called self-plagiarism. You're also not permitted to use work from a friend, family, tutor, or essay writing website, even if you have their permission or have paid for it. If you do not include all the sources of information that you used in assignment in your reference list or bibliography, this is also considered plagiarism. And it is plagiarism to take content written by AI programs such as ChatGPT and submit them as your own. You also may not take work written by someone else and run it through AI such as ChatGPT or Quillbot to avoid plagiarism detection. So why do students plagiarize? Many students end up plagiarizing because they have a lack of research skills. They're not confident at reading and summarizing the information they are using. Students who make annotations or notes of the work they are using are far less likely to plagiarize than students who copy and paste whole chunks of text in the research phase of their task. Many students feel under pressure to produce work of a high standard and will plagiarize as they feel the work they have copied is superior to their own. Accidental plagiarism happens when students do not accurately keep a record of the sources they have used and identify where they have copied quotes rather than written their own notes. Poor organization and time management can lead to plagiarism, as students complete a task quickly are more likely to use copied texts and ideas without taking the time to credit and reference the appropriate sources. Sometimes students plagiarize because they're not aware that what they have used needs to be appropriately credited as the author of the work. Here you can see some of a wide range of reasons and excuses given by students for why they plagiarize. Have a look at the reasons given and notice that many of them involve poor planning and organization, or sometimes a lack of understanding of the subject matter or content. There are serious consequences for plagiarism that are outlined in the school's behaviour policy. The consequences include the following. Any plagiarized elements of the work will not count towards the final result on that piece of work. This means that if you've included a plagiarized paragraph, sentence, table, image, graph, that element will not be marked or considered in grading your assessment. As a result, this means that you will only be assessed on any work that can be identified as your own original work. Students in Year 7 and in the first semester of Year 8 may be granted the opportunity to resubmit the work deemed as plagiarised without academic penalty. and this resubmission should occur under the guidance of the head of faculty and dean of studies. In all cases, your parents will be informed. There are some simple steps you can take to avoid plagiarism in your work. Firstly, manage your time during the research and writing process. Give yourself enough time to note take appropriately. Secondly, make sure you use in-text citations with direct quotations and paraphrases. Acknowledging others is a way of showing that your work is well researched and supported with evidence. It is a strength of your writing to show that you have used the ideas of others, not a weakness. Provide proper in-text citations for your paraphrases and quotes, and include a reference list using APA. A following module will show you how to determine how and when to use in-text citations and paraphrases. There are also instructional videos from the library on how to use the Microsoft referencing and citation tools. Make sure you are organized when researching. Ensure you collect the details, for example, author, year, title, publisher, web page, at the end of the text as you read as you go. When you are writing, immediately use an in-text citation when you've used a quote or an idea from another source. Do not wait to the end and try to remember which ideas were yours and which were not. And don't forget, the same rules apply to graphs, tables, and images. Avoid copying and pasting information into your notes. You should use Eagle and Wolf to annotate a source or write notes in your own words, or use a scaffold like Cornell Notes. Check your Turnitin report before submitting your work. This will help you identify where there may be issues with your writing. And finally, please also note that there are special rules that apply to acknowledging artificial intelligence such as ChatGPT in your work. These rules are covered in detail in the Artificial Intelligence module of this course. Turnitin. Turnitin is a web-based plagiarism detection tool that can be used by students and teachers alike to identify plagiarized aspects of their work. As a student at Churchie, when you submit an assessment task, you are required to do the following. All work must be submitted using Turnitin for checking in Schoolbox. This must include a copy of any AI chat or threads used in the process of researching or writing your assessment as an appendix. The text should be copied and pasted from the AI thread and included as an attached appendix. You cannot submit your thread as an image, screenshot, or snip. You can and should use Turnitin to self-check for plagiarism in advance of submitting your work. Sometimes work that is cited correctly will be flagged in Turnitin as it is checking for word matches. This is usually okay. As long as if you included a citation, your work will not have committed plagiarism. If your work is flagged with a plagiarism issue, you may be asked by your teacher to authenticate the work as your own. Ensure you have kept copies of your notes and drafts to help support this. And remember, just because your work is not identified as plagiarized by Turnitin, your teacher may still identify work that is plagiarized and ask you to authenticate it. Confirming authenticity. When the authenticity of a student's work is challenged, you will be asked to demonstrate the work that you have submitted is your own. To do this, you should make sure you keep copies of your drafts and the reference material that you used. Do not ask for assistance beyond comprehension of the task sheet and the task itself, or comprehension and understanding of the marking criteria. Do not share your work with other students for them to use or copy. And make sure that when given time, you complete work and task. This way, your teacher knows that it was produced by you. Make sure you have a substantial draft copy of your work submitted by the draft due date. And ensure that if you were to be questioned about your submission, that you are able to answer questions relating to the development and content of your submitted work. This might include explaining an argument you have made or explaining your choice of vocabulary and its meaning. You've now reached the end of Module 3. You must successfully complete the quiz before moving on to the next module.